AITA for getting my brother's fiancée arrested after she destroyed my brand new BMW? My sister-in-law, a 32-year-old woman who until very recently was engaged to my older brother, asked me, a 29-year-old man, if she could borrow my new BMW for a week-long girls' trip to Miami. She wanted me to hand over my car, which was practically fresh off the dealership lot, so she and her friends could drive it hundreds of miles down the interstate and use it for a beach vacation. For context, I am very proud of this car. I worked hard and saved for years to buy it, and I literally acquired it just a couple of months ago. It is the most valuable asset I have ever owned, and I am still making monthly financing payments on it. So naturally, I did not feel comfortable lending it out. It is not that I never lend things or that I do not trust my family, but in this case, I had a very good reason to hesitate. My sister-in-law, I will call her Vanessa in this story, has a long history of being careless with other people's belongings. In fact, saying careless is an understatement. This year alone, she has already been involved in 2 accidents with her own vehicle. The first time was because she was texting while driving and didn't see the car in front of her had stopped at a red light. The second was on a rainy night. When she drove off the road into a ditch, she blamed the weather conditions. However, we all suspect she was driving too fast or might have even been operating the vehicle under the influence. Furthermore, I have seen how she treats borrowed items. She borrowed my brother's expensive DSLR camera last summer and returned it with a cracked screen and sand in the lens from taking it to the beach. She also took a dress from my wife and returned it with red wine stains, laughing as if it were no big deal. So yes, being reckless with other people's property is basically her personal brand. When Vanessa asked to use my BMW for her Miami trip, I immediately felt uncomfortable. I tried to be diplomatic and told her I didn't feel at ease lending my new car for a long road trip. I suggested she rent a vehicle or that one of her friends drive a different car. I even tried to soften the blow by saying, "It is nothing personal, I just do not let anyone drive this car yet." I was trying to sound general, without directly saying, "Because you are a terrible driver," even though that was exactly what I was thinking. She did not take it well at all. She got angry instantly, turned red, and started screaming at me in my own living room. She said it was just a car and that I was being selfish and bitter. She insisted that family should help family and that if she had a luxury car, she would lend it to me, which I highly doubt. My wife tried to calm her down by saying something like maybe the insurance policy only covered me, just to smooth over the situation. My brother remained silent, clearly embarrassed. Vanessa threw a screaming tantrum, waving her arms, her voice cracking, and finally stormed out of the house, slamming the front door and yelling that I would regret it, that I wasn't a good brother-in-law, or something along those lines. 2 days later, on the day of the most important presentation of my corporate career, I walked out to my driveway, coffee in hand and dressed in my best suit, ready to succeed. But when I saw my BMW, I froze. First I noticed some scratches, then letters, and finally the full picture. Someone had keyed a huge, offensive word across the doors on both the driver and passenger sides. These were not simple surface scratches. They had dug so deep it reached the metal, with paint peeling at the edges. A total wreck. My first thought was Vanessa. Who else would do this? I do not have enemies, and I do not live in a high-crime neighborhood. The keyed word made it feel personal, as if the person wanted me to know exactly why they were doing it. And considering Vanessa had screamed that I would regret not lending her the car, the pieces fit together perfectly. I stood there paralyzed, staring at the disaster. Mechanically, the car was fine, but I could not arrive at a professional presentation at a major company with a slur carved into the doors. Not only was it humiliating, but it would give the impression that I was involved in trouble or an unstable lifestyle. There was no way to cover it in such a short time, so I had to call an Uber. The Uber was late, traffic was heavy, and my nerves were shot. What should have been a 30-minute commute turned into almost an hour. I arrived barely on time, perspiring, and with a head full of rage. I managed to give the presentation, although I am not sure if I will secure the contract. I think it went okay, but I was so distracted it was all a blur. Either way, I know I did not perform at my best because in the back of my mind, I was seething with rage thinking about my car. After the meeting, I finally had time to process what had happened. I took more photos of the damage to document it for evidence. My wife was just as surprised and horrified as I was when she saw the car. We both knew in our guts it had been Vanessa, but we had not confronted her yet. I called my insurance company to start a claim, and they told me they would need a police report for vandalism, which meant officially involving law enforcement. At that moment, I was furious. Furthermore, this had ruined a huge day for me and could have cost me a career opportunity. I absolutely wanted her to pay for the damages and face the consequences of what she had done. The problem is that my wife was begging me to let it go for the sake of family peace. Vanessa was about to marry my brother, and my wife feared that if I pursued legal action, it would cause a massive rift in the family. She said things like, "I know she is terrible, but maybe we should handle it privately. Just ask them to pay for the repair or something instead of calling the police." My wife hates conflict, and I could tell she was afraid this would turn into a family war, especially if my brother got defensive or if Vanessa denied it. I understand not wanting drama, but another part of me thought, no way, why should Vanessa get away with it? She literally vandalized my property out of spite and nearly sabotaged a decisive moment in my career. If I let it go, that sets a precedent that she can do whatever she wants and I will just stand by to keep the peace. I was beyond angry and felt that if there were no consequences, she would never learn, and I would just end up resenting everyone. I sent my brother a text with a photo of the car after discovering it, and his only response was, "Wow, what happened?" I did not reply because I did not even know what to say to him. I am pretty sure he also made the connection to Vanessa. My wife begged me to leave it alone for now and said we would find another way. But what other way was there? I really needed advice. Should I let it go to keep the peace in the family, or make her face the consequences for what she did to my car and my career? Because at that moment, the only thing I wanted was justice, even if it rocked the boat. Update 1. Most of you made it clear that I was not exaggerating and that I should hold Vanessa accountable, so I filed a police report against her for vandalism and destruction of property. As part of that, I also contacted my insurance company. They sent an adjuster to review the damages, and it turned out it will cost around $4,000 to repair and repaint both sides of the car. Since the scratches were so deep, they basically have to repaint from the front fender to the rear on both the driver and passenger sides, so it looks uniform and there are no visible lines. Even so, I worry it will never look the same as the original factory paint. Maybe I am being paranoid. Anyway, insurance will cover it, but I have a $500 deductible I have to pay out of pocket. So besides ruining my week and my car, she literally cost me money. One of my neighbors has a security camera in his garage that happens to record part of the street in front of our houses. I went door to door asking if anyone had seen anything, and this neighbor was very helpful. He reviewed the footage from that night, and, surprise, around 3 a.m., Vanessa's car is clearly seen parking near my house with the lights off. In the black and white video with night vision, a figure that looks a lot like Vanessa is seen getting out, approaching my BMW, and spending several minutes doing something to the sides. The motion sensor camera caught it all. It is not the clearest video in the world, but her face is visible when she turns toward the street lamp at one point. Besides, who else could do it? Exactly 2 days after her tantrum, I decided it was time to confront her. I called my brother and told him I needed to go to his house that night to talk about something important. He sounded a bit uncomfortable, surely already sensing what it was about, but he agreed. I went with a USB drive containing the video and some printed photos from the footage. When I arrived, Vanessa looked a bit anxious. Maybe she sensed what was coming. My brother was on the sofa, restless. I told them directly. My car was vandalized, and I have reason to believe it was Vanessa. She immediately got defensive. What are you talking about? Are you crazy? She was almost mocking, acting as if I were making up the story to blame her. Then I pulled out the evidence. I showed my brother the photos from the security camera and then played the video on his TV. I had it on the USB, and he plugged it into the smart TV. As soon as the video started playing and Vanessa realized what it was, her attitude changed completely. She started screaming, "That is not me, it is fake." She shrieked that I was a liar and must have edited the video to make it look like her. It was absurd. Meanwhile, my brother watched in frozen silence. You could tell from his face that he knew the truth. He recognized Vanessa and her car clearly. The longer the video went on, the more angry and disappointed he looked. When it finished, everything exploded between them. My brother turned to Vanessa and yelled something like, "How could you do this to my own brother?" She started crying and screaming back at him that it was all my fault for not lending her the car. She even said something like, "If he had lent it to me, none of this would have happened." Unbelievable. I stayed on the sidelines while they argued. At one point, she lunged at me and told me to get out of her house, but my brother stopped her and ordered her to go to another room. I had never seen him so furious. He told me quietly that he was sorry and asked if I needed anything from him. I replied that I had already filed a police report, given the video to the authorities, and expected him and Vanessa to at least cover the $500 deductible. He told me he understood. When I got back home, I was still so angry, especially about Vanessa's absurd denial and lack of apology, that I decided to post the security camera video on my personal Facebook page. Looking back, maybe it was an intense move, but in that moment I was furious and wanted to expose what she had done. I wrote something like, "Remember that time I did not lend my car to someone and they keyed it? Well, here is the security video of that person doing it at 3 a.m. It was cathartic to hit post. I admit, I have many mutual friends and family on Facebook, including my brother and sister-in-law, so a lot of people saw what she had done. I am not sure if it was wise, but I was too angry to worry about saving her the embarrassment. She had earned it. Update 2. It has been only a few days since my last update, but the consequences have been devastating for Vanessa. To be honest, I did not expect things to escalate so quickly or so dramatically. First, my brother officially called off the engagement. The very next day after I showed him the video and after that big fight with Vanessa, he called me and said he had spent the entire night thinking. He apologized again and again for what I went through and for Vanessa's behavior. He told me he could not marry someone capable of doing something so malicious against his own family. Apparently, seeing the video and her reaction made something click in his head. It made him reflect on other red flags he had been ignoring. Looking back, he realized this vandalism was part of a pattern of destructive behavior from Vanessa that he had always made excuses for. For example, he confessed to me that a few months ago, during a heated argument, she broke a mirror in their apartment and then tried to minimize it as an accident. There were other incidents too, like throwing things when she got mad. He admitted he always covered up her messes and tried to fix things, hoping it was just stress or that she would mature. But the incident with my car was the final straw. He gave her back the ring, or rather, according to what he told me, the return of the ring was a very intense moment. He told her the wedding was off, and he could not be with someone who lied without remorse. Of course, canceling the wedding brought its own consequences. They already had a date for this year at a dream venue Vanessa had been talking about for years. That venue had a huge deposit which is now lost. Same with other vendor deposits, photographer, catering, and so on, that were already booked. She is losing all of that. I do not know how much money in total, but knowing the type of lavish wedding she was planning, it is not cheap. From what my mother and some friends told me, Vanessa is devastated, not just emotionally, but also by the shame and financial loss. Frankly, I find it hard to feel sorry for her at this point. On the legal side, the police moved forward with my complaint. They have officially charged Vanessa with criminal mischief and vandalism. The detective I spoke with said that given the estimated cost of the damage, it is classified as a serious level of vandalism, which carries significant legal weight. 2 days after I filed the report, officers went to Vanessa's workplace and arrested her. I did not see it in person, but my brother told me, and a couple of Vanessa's former friends confirmed via text that she left her office in handcuffs. Apparently, she was absolutely embarrassed and was screaming at the officers that she had not done anything, that I was a liar, while they read her rights in front of her co-workers. I cannot say I wanted her humiliated, but it does not bother me that it happened either. Actions have consequences, right? After her arrest, my brother packed his things and moved out of the apartment they shared. He is temporarily staying at my parents' house while he figures out his next steps. I understand he is quite depressed and angry, but he says he also feels relieved to have avoided marrying her. My parents are supporting him a lot. They saw the evidence and know how serious it all was. No one doubts that Vanessa is the guilty one. As for Vanessa, well, now she is blowing up my phone with messages. She must be out on bail. At first, she begged me to talk to my brother to fix it, mixing pleas with insults toward me and my mother. Now it has escalated to direct threats. She says I ruined her life and she will make me pay. One of her messages literally said, You have no idea who you are messing with. I will make you regret everything. You piece of garbage. Yes, charming. Of course, I am saving all those messages and have already forwarded them to the police. I also spoke with a lawyer and filed for a restraining order against her. I do not plan to take any risks because if she was capable of keying my car and then seeking revenge with threats, who knows what else she might do. It is better to have documentation and official protection. That is where things stand. My brother is done with her. The wedding is canceled. She faces criminal charges, and now she is taking it out on me with what little she has left. It has been a lot, to say the least. Update 3. I honestly hoped nothing else would happen, but last night everything took an even crazier turn. I am still shaking as I write this. Around 1 a.m., my house security alarm went off, and my wife and I woke up startled. At first I thought it was a false alarm or that our cat had triggered a sensor, but then I heard loud banging at the back of the house. I immediately grabbed my phone and opened the live feed from the backyard security camera. Yes, after everything that happened, I made sure to install cameras around the perimeter of the house. To my absolute horror, the camera showed Vanessa in my backyard, at the back door of my house, with what looked like a crowbar in her hand. I felt my heart jump into my throat. She was trying to break in. I saw her prying at the door frame, trying to open it. The alarm was blaring at full volume, but she seemed out of control. At that moment, my wife was terrified. I told her to lock herself in the bedroom and call 911, while I stayed on the line with the alarm monitoring company that had already detected the intrusion. I yelled at her through the door that the police were on their way, hoping that would scare her, but she kept hitting the handle with the crowbar, trying to force it. The police arrived in what must have been just a few minutes, but to me, it felt like hours. I watched on the camera as the officers approached with flashlights and firearms drawn. They yelled at her to drop the object. She screamed back, saying things that were incoherent, but I managed to hear part of it, that I deserved this, that I ruined her life. Even as the police were handcuffing her, she kept screaming that I deserved to have my house robbed for what I did to her. It was intense. They took her away literally kicking and screaming in the patrol car. I gave the police my camera recordings and a statement. They told me they would charge her with attempted burglary, among other charges. And since the restraining order was already in effect, this was also a clear violation of that order, which made her situation significantly worse. Now Vanessa faced a completely new level of legal trouble. We are talking about serious charges that could mean real time in custody. I do not know what she planned to do if she managed to get inside, and I prefer not to imagine it. But the fact that she came to my house in the middle of the night with a crowbar shows how unstable and dangerous the situation had become. To say that my brother wants nothing more to do with her would be an understatement. I spoke to him after everything happened. He came to check on us as soon as he found out. He was horrified. He kept apologizing and said he never thought she could go this far. He could not even say her name, only referring to her as that woman. I had never seen him so angry and dejected. My whole family is still in shock thinking that we once welcomed her as a future member. On a slightly positive note, amidst this chaos, the issue with my car was finally resolved. The insurance company had been waiting for the police investigation to conclude. And now that Vanessa was declared guilty of the vandalism and ended up facing overwhelming evidence, they processed my claim completely. My BMW is in the body shop getting the repair and repaint it needs, and they gave me a rental car. Meanwhile, the best part is that since she was held legally liable, my insurer told me I no longer have to cover the deductible. They will recover that money from her or her insurance if she has personal liability coverage, which I doubt covers intentional acts. Additionally, a judge ordered her to reimburse me the $500 I paid initially plus cover the court costs of the case. He also issued a clear warning. If she tries to contact me or approach me again, she goes straight to jail. After what happened last night, I suspect she will be in custody for a good while, at least until the bail hearing for the new charges. I still struggle to believe all this happened just because I refused to lend her my car. It is as if at every step Vanessa chose the worst possible option for herself. I am extremely grateful that my wife and I are safe and that the police arrived in time to prevent something worse. Update 4. I am back with what will probably be the last update of this whole ordeal. It has been a while since the attempted break-in, and we have gone through the legal process to the end. The result: Vanessa, or rather, my ex-sister-in-law, managed to avoid extended jail time by accepting a plea deal. She was sentenced to probation, several months under supervision, mandatory anger management therapy, and she has to pay me a total of $4,500 in restitution. That figure covers the damage to my car, the repainting, my $500 deductible, and the various legal and court fees I had to face. The judge was very clear. If she violates any of the terms of her probation, including having any contact with me, she goes straight to prison. In other words, she has one single chance to straighten up, and if she wastes it, it is over. After all this, Vanessa's life practically fell apart. She lost her job. I do not know all the details, but I suspect the time she needed for court hearings and the fact that her arrest and booking photo were made public played a role. She worked at a fairly high-level corporate company, and when it became known that she was convicted of vandalism and had been arrested in her office, they terminated her employment. So at 32 years old, she had to move back to her parents' house because she cannot pay rent without my brother's income and being unemployed. My brother had removed himself from the apartment lease immediately after the breakup, so the responsibility was hers alone. I do not know what happened to that place. Maybe she broke the lease or got evicted. In any case, she is back in her childhood bedroom. As for my brother, he is much better now. At first, it was tough. Discovering that the person you love and plan to marry is capable of all this is hard to digest. But with time and therapy, which he very wisely decided to seek, he started to heal and focus on himself. He still lives with my parents, but he is already planning to move to a new place soon. He has told me many times that he is grateful I stood my ground, as painful as it was, because that revealed the truth about Vanessa before he made the mistake of marrying her. My wife confessed to me that initially she would have preferred I let it go to avoid drama, but after seeing how far everything went, she is 100% in agreement that seeking consequences was the right thing to do. She told me she regrets doubting my decision, especially seeing how things escalated. Now we both sleep more peacefully knowing Vanessa is monitored and can no longer harass us. We also reinforced the house security even more for peace of mind. As for me, I am fine. My car came back from the shop and looks like new. Honestly, they did an amazing job. No one would guess anything happened. And regarding that big contract I was so worried about, I ended up getting it. Comment. Sometimes saying no is the most powerful act of self-care you can practice, even when it feels uncomfortable. It is easy to confuse setting boundaries with being selfish, but protecting your peace is actually a form of self-respect. We often fear that standing our ground will cause conflict, yet it frequently reveals the truth about the people around us. Real family and true friends will respect your limits instead of punishing you for having them. While it is painful to see relationships change, walking away from toxicity opens the door to genuine healing. Taking responsibility for our actions is the only way we truly grow and move forward in life. I hope you remember that your safety and mental well-being are worth more than keeping everyone else happy. You deserve to be surrounded by people who value you, not just what you can give them. Let's all try to be a little more understanding and accountable in our own lives today. Thank you for listening, and I wish you strength and kindness on your journey. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.